Welcome to the pod. I'm going to blow your fucking mind today. We're going to talk about what the collective consciousness is and how to access it. And I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who's leaving comments on the podcast on Spotify. I really appreciate it. There's no way to reply to you on there. Like, there's just no option for it. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. You know who you are. You are all very amazing. And it makes this so much easier to do when I know it's actually helping people. And I am just always eternally grateful for that feedback. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It means the world. We're going to talk a little bit about quantum physics. Now, this is actually going to be quite exciting. I know that that might sound boring for some people and others might be like, oh my God, yes. But this is like the area of my interest, I guess. Like I've never like studied this officially or anything. I basically learn best by going through something and then reading myself and watching myself and studying myself. That's how I learn like all of the amazing things that I know. And I also learn from other people, and I watch and study other people as well, and also take advice from amazing friends and everything. It's a mixed bag. But anyway, I have always been really interested in my own energy from the point of time when I realized that my energy was something that I should be watching and kind of looking after and everything. And I've also just always believed that I have the ability to make whatever life I want. I just didn't have the foundations of knowledge behind that. I always thought it just meant like a bit of hard work and grit and, you know, placebo effect, really. Like I thought if I just put some visuals in front of myself on a board, I'll eventually like hack my consciousness and make unconscious movements toward that reality, which does work. And that is definitely a way that people manifest. But from experience, it is a slower way to manifest for sure. That can take literally years or a year or whatever, which is great. Like at the end of the day, if it's happening and you're seeing the changes, amazing, like slay. But anyway, so let's get into, I'm going to sort of take you through the underlying foundational knowledge and then how it practically affects your life. So buckle up, baby. All right, so let's get into this. I'm actually just going to read this from my book because, anyway, atoms are made up of energy, which is like literally just like a cloud of electrons. And an electron can appear as a particle anywhere in that little cloud of electrons and then disappear again. So this cloud of electrons is just essentially endless possibilities for particles to appear in. So think about each atom and its little cloud of electrons as your life as well. So like every single atom has its own cloud of electrons, and each electron can become anything. So the particles that appear like and then disappear and reappear and disappear, they only, like scientifically have found that these particles only appear where the observer is observing them. So it's like if the person has an intention of finding a particle, they can. It will show up and manifest visibly for them, and then it will disappear again. So it's in this constant ebb and flow, right? It's in this constant moving. It's never stopping. It's never ceasing. It's always changing. It's always creating. Now, we are made up of those. That's what we're made of. I'll get further into it. This just never ceases to blow my mind. So this is the basic layman science behind like where, like, you know, Joe Dispenza. So his whole thing is like where your attention goes, energy flows. This is the science behind that. So the point of this whole like where your attention goes, energy flows is that, remember the whole atom and the particle situation, right? So if you want to observe a certain part of your life that already exists that may be kind of shitty, that you don't like, and you're focusing your energy on it, that's not going to go away. You're going to keep manifesting that into your reality day after day after day, right? If you're like, oh, I'm so mentally unwell, ha 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 ha, babe, you're not going to get better if that's what you keep talking about yourself and that's what you're believing about yourself. And if you're like, oh my God, I'm so unlucky, that's the reality that you're going to keep manifesting. But it also works on the flip side. So if you are like, oh my God, I'm the luckiest person in the world and everything works out for me, slay, it will. Because you are putting your energy and your intentions and attention on those thoughts, thus creating those particles to manifest in a physical reality. Like, because brainwaves, like scientifically, brainwaves have been shown to be energy. Like your brainwaves, your thoughts are energy, and energy is atoms. I don't want to lose you. I'm going to get back on track. So anyway, we need to observe the possible reality that we want, and keeping in mind that there are endless possible realities, and there is no shortage of them either. So if you're like, oh, I want to become, you know, so spiritually connected with myself that I can just like channel anything for anyone at any moment and turn it all on and off whenever I please, and just like have, you know, all of this amazing power to use for the good and all of that. Like, you can do that. And just because there are other people out there who already do that doesn't mean that there's a well of, you know, a few opportunities to be able to do that. And there's already like, you know, 50,000 people who can do that. So there's only a few spots left. Like, no, it's not like that. And that goes with anything in life, anything you want to be. If you're like, I want to be a podcaster, but there's already so many podcasters, it's so saturated. Doesn't matter, babe. There's endless possibilities out there already where you're a podcaster and you're slaying at it. And, you know, do you know what I mean? So never let the idea of like, oh, there's already too much of that stop you, because you can create whatever reality you want, and there is endless opportunities, endless possibilities. Like, there's enough of everything for everyone to go around. So you just need to remember that you're made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of electrons and particles. And particles show up as a physical manifestation when they are observed. So just keeping in mind that you're made up of that, right? So if you're observing your life in a way, you can physically manifest that reality. Now, you're probably like, okay, well, like, my dream life doesn't fucking exist, Esther. Exactly. This is where it gets tricky. It's not tricky. It's easy, but it's like one of those things where it's like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So this is kind of one of those things where you have to set the intention with yourself to actually take a real fucking crack at this and just go with it. So the idea is that you go into a place in your mind, you connect in with the collective consciousness, and you observe a version of you that exists in another dimension somewhere, and you feel all the feelings that you have in that reality, in your physical body in the here and now. And with those elevated feelings, plus the intention of reaching that reality, plus like seeing it in your mind's eye, brings your energy and all of your atoms and electrons and particles and everything, like, it brings your vibration up to a place where you are an energetic match with that reality. And then basically this feedback loop happens where like you're sending out a signal and you become magnetic throughout your body, and then it kind of comes in to find you. You don't need to know how it happens. You just need to trust that it will. In fact, the how and trying to control it is the fucking first way to block it. Which sucks, because as humans, we're so designed to want to control all of this shit, right? We don't like to have like gaps in knowledge, and we don't like to trust. So it's a big lesson in kind of going against our evolutionary sort of built-in nature in that sense. This is part of our nature too, but we've just never really been taught about it, right? So it's like suddenly as an adult, you're trying to rewire yourself, which is what we're doing. Okay, so I hope you're still with me. I just love this stuff so much. So we each have a unique energy signature, and that energy signature is individual to us, and it's a part of what Joe Dispenza calls like the unified field, and this is also the collective consciousness. So think about this in a way of like, let's just say the universe is energy, which it is, and energy is the same, like energy and consciousness are like one and the same. So like pretty much everything's made of energy, everything's made of atoms, but some things are lower vibrational and dense. Like my couch doesn't really have the same thoughts and feelings that I have. Do you know what I mean? But it's still made up of energy, and it can still hold and vibrate energy. So think about it in the sense that like everything's made up of energy. The whole universe is made up of energy. You're made up of energy. So we are all like a physical representation of the universe, and we're all like able to do all the same things as the universe because we're made of all of the same stuff. We all affect each other, and we affect the world around us. We affect the nature around us. Like we're just all in this like fucking ocean together basically of energy, and we're connected in that sense because we all are one and the same, but we are also individual. So we have our own individual perception of reality, and we have our own thoughts and our own feelings and everything. So it's like time to become aware of the fact that we are not only individual, but we are also collective. So we basically, to manifest a reality where you're doing all the things that you want to do and you're just like super happy all the time, you need to connect in with the rest of the energy around you, the collective consciousness, the unified field. I will show you how to do that, chill. Through quantum entanglement is basically how we're connected to the collective energy field and the collective consciousness. So we are the universe, and we are, I'm going to say like quote unquote God in this sense. I'm not religious or anything, but just to give you like, you know, how I guess the perspective of people always praying outside of themselves and wishing for things outside of themselves. Like it's time to sort of turn that attention inward as well. In the sense that like you have that power that you're asking someone else to use to bestow like a better life onto you. Do you know what I mean? So like if you're like, oh God, I want this to happen in my life, please help me with X, Y, Z. Like you actually have the power to change your own life, to create your own miracles. Granted, it's, you probably, I don't know if you could make planets in like a solar system. I don't know if it's that strong. Like, I don't know yet to find that out, but you are an emulation of the same energy. You're an extension of it. So it's quantum entanglement. So we are the universe, and we're a dense form of like arrangements of atoms and electrons and particles that all come from that original source consciousness. So we can communicate in this field, and we can affect the fields of those around us. So our mind and body together are a solid way to connect into that field and create a new reality, because our thoughts and words are often connected to feelings, and our bodies are communicating through feelings. So let me think of an example. I set the intention late last year to listen to my body for everything. I've said this to you guys a bunch of times already, but I can't stress how important it is. So if you haven't set this intention, please just like do it now. But set the intention to understand your own energy and to listen to your body, because your body will teach you your own energy. Your body will teach you a different form of communication with yourself that you haven't really had up until this point. Because people often look outside of themselves. Like, how often are you in a situation where you're like, oh, I don't know if I should break up with my boyfriend. I don't know if I should quit my job. I don't know if I should tell my friend about this thing, la, la, la. And you're like asking everyone around you. You'll ask a friend, you'll go to a psychic, you'll ask like your therapist or whatever, and you just can't seem to get the answer. Whereas like your body would tell you that really fucking fast. So it's a way of kind of coming back inside yourself and understanding yourself and understanding what you need and what is the most aligned for you. And then you end up having this like communication tool, right? So your body can feel so much. So it will feel joy. It will feel gratitude. Like when you're going through something that's so good and so exciting and you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Oh, I just wish it never ends, blah, blah, blah. And you're so happy. Like those are the kind of feelings that you want to look for once you are connected in with the unified field and the collective consciousness, seeing and perceiving and observing a future possible reality of yourself. So if you can't just like on command get your body to feel the experience of joy and gratitude, this is something I want you to set the intention to be able to connect in with yourself and experience, so that you can kind of just do that on command. Like if I just sit with myself for a minute, take a few breaths and close my eyes, I can just be like suddenly feeling ecstatic joy in my body, as if I've just like won the lottery. Like I've made myself cry doing that before because I've just been like, wow, it's so nice. And that's an incredibly powerful tool to have when you're manifesting. But I didn't even know this back then. I just wanted to set the intention to learn my energy because I was like, found out I was a manifesting generator and thought it would be good to listen to my body. Then like now that I'm doing it, I'm practicing it all. I'm like, whoa, all of this, you know, started to make sense and started to sort of connect as like dots. And I was like, wow, this is all part of it. I'm so glad that I did that. And now I'm passing this along to you. So please listen to your body. Anyway, so your thoughts and your words. Let's just say your thoughts and your words are kind of intrinsically connected. And then your body, right? They're all communication devices. And if you're saying to someone, I'm so happy and I'm so grateful, and you're feeling happy and grateful, that's authentic. That's a very authentic connection of communication between your mind, your mouth, and your body, right? And that is like Powerful stuff when it comes to manifesting. So think about our thoughts and our feelings as a feedback loop with the universe. And this is like a quantum sort of energy field. So our thoughts send a signal out. So let's imagine water drawing back into the ocean across the sand. So like, you know, when a wave kind of splashes out on the sand and then it draws back into the ocean, kind of sucks back in out into the big blue. So think about your thoughts as heading out into the ocean with the waves. They're a signal. So your thoughts and words, they're just going out. They're sending the signal out into the big blue of energy. And our feelings create a magnetic pull, right? So when you're feeling really good and when you're feeling like hot stuff and you're feeling in your power and you're super comfortable with yourself and you're feeling really confident in that moment and you just like everyone wants to be around you and you're like, wow, wish it was like this for me every day. That's when you are magnetic. You're in a magnetic state because you are feeling good. You're feeling confident. You're feeling in touch with yourself and in flow with yourself. So think about our feelings as creating a magnetic pull in towards us. So imagine the ocean then pushing like a stunning clean wave towards the sand. And that just sort of breathes in and it breathes out. And you're always sending a signal out and you're always pulling a reality back in. Okay? So fucking remember that next time you're whinging about your life constantly because, sis, you are creating that reality for yourself. And it's not to say that like things didn't just like happen to you. I'm not like, don't take that to the fucking end of the earth. And like, I know sometimes things just happen that are out of our control and they're horrendous, but usually they're there to teach us a lesson and you can't just keep sitting in it. Because if you sit in it and stay in it, you're expired. Like you're not meant to stay in that for too long. You're meant to find your way out of the situation and you can create the reality where you're not in that shitty situation. And I know that it's so hard to believe something that you can't fucking see and that someone's just like telling you to fucking trust. That's the hardest part. Like, but when you start to do it and it starts to show up as a reality in your life and you start to see it come back from the universe, that feedback loop, the universe starts sending it back to you because you're doing it intentionally and you're doing it consciously. So you're like, oh my God. And you start to see synchronicities. Synchronicities are when the universe is like, yep, gotcha. I heard ya. It's coming. So if you're doing that sort of that feedback signal, that feedback loop, and you're sending your thoughts and intentions out and you're creating a beautiful feeling that joins those thoughts and feelings. So I'm like, okay, I want to have an art studio one day that I can also podcast in. And I want it to be this big space with really high ceilings. And I want the ceiling to be literally glass. And I want light pouring in like all the time. And I want to have my little like cute little fluffy Groodle with me. And I just want everything on wheels so I can always wheel everything around. Like I know what the inside of this future art studio looks like through and through. I feel like I have actually been there. It feels more like a memory to me than a manifestation. Because the times that I sit in that space and I go into the quantum field, I feel like I'm there. I feel all the feelings of joy. I've set the intention of this manifestation and the meditation that I'm doing to call it in. And I'm like, okay, I want to be in that art studio. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'll afford it. I don't know how it's going to come into my life. And I don't know where it is. But I know what the inside of that place looks like. And I know exactly how I feel when I'm in there. I feel free and I feel so full of joy. And so I'm sending out in a very clear visual and an intention and a thought process. And I'm also sending it out with a very, very high vibrational feeling like joy. And then I make sure to feel grateful for that having come into my life while I'm in that place. And the universe is going to bring that in. I'm sending out a really strong magnet. And it's going to come into me and I'm going to be fucking shocked when it does. And I'm going to be like probably crying and be like, oh my God, I manifested this place. You know what I mean? And like that's a bigger scale situation. So I'm just being patient and I'm trusting. Again, that's not always easy, but sometimes you just have to. And then like sometimes there's also like smaller things that happen where I'm like, oh, I want to commission art. And I'd like to do it in a way where I can just sort of get to know the person because I don't think it's not my style to just look at someone's room and be like, oh yeah, this kind of painting will suit. Like, no, thank you. I would like to know who I'm commissioning for. So I'm gonna, you know, just keep doing my thing and manifest that someone drops into my inbox every now and then and they love the whole idea of me getting to know them over a period of a few weeks and they compensate me well for putting, you know, my fucking life force energy into this because essentially I'm going to get to know them, ask them questions to help them get to know themselves and sort of create more self-awareness And then I'm going to channel what I learnt from them about them and put it into their art. And then they get to keep that piece. And it's going to remove blocks for them. It's going to help them see themselves a bit more. It's going to help them step into the next like activation of where they need to be in life. And I trust the universe will bring all the right people into me who need that and who I want to work with. And so I like set that intention, and I had a fucking message in my inbox that night to commission a piece like that. I was like, what? It was so fast. So little things like that just like the universe is just sort of showing you that you're connected to it. It is you. You are it. You can think these things and you can feel these things. You can set these intentions and create these realities, and they'll come back in. They'll come into you. So anyway, moving on. So with your thoughts on gratitude for what you have and where you'll be at, and like your clear intentions about it all and everything, mixed with your bodily feelings of joy, of having gratitude and all of that, you're essentially rewiring your energy signature that's in that quantum field, right? It's in your own individual field, your own individual like energy signature that also reaches out into the like quantum sort of unified field that we're all in, the collective consciousness. So right now, however it is that you're feeling today when you're listening to this, in this very moment, like if you're listening to this feeling like inspired and like educated and like, okay, this makes sense to me now that I have the foundational knowledge, this is going to be easier for me to do because it'll sort of like really set in. If you're feeling like excited or whatever, you're literally rewiring your energy signature in that moment to excitement. And imagine if you just rewired your energy signature to excitement all the time. Like, what do you think would be coming into your life? Exciting shit. Do you know what I mean? It's rewirable at any given moment. This is why it's important to create self-awareness and to watch yourself and watch your thoughts and everything, because it's like, well, I mean, so much of your thinking is unconscious. So much of it, until you turn that spotlight inward and look for it and become conscious of it as much as you can. And that's like that's an all the time, everyday thing, but it doesn't take up all of your brain space. Eventually it just becomes as normal as breathing. So to change your life, you need to refocus your energy and rewire that energy signature. So just like the ocean waves, breathing in and out and pushing onto the sand, slowly changing its shape, you'll change the shape of your life and your path and all of that. So the reason that my whole life changed through like 2023 was because I decided to become consciously aware of all of the unconscious energetic signals that I was sending out into the field. So I set an intention, and I know I've told you guys this before, but I set an intention and I was like, I want to know all of my I want to know all of my unconscious thought processes. I want to know all of my unconscious belief systems. I want to know how I actually truly see myself and the world that I live in, because, you know, it became apparent to me that the world that I'm in is just my own perception of it. So it was like, well, if the world I'm in is just how I'm perceiving it, I'm going to try and control how I perceive it so that I have a better reality and a better time here on Earth. So I did the work. Like, I set the intention, and then I just did. Like, I just started to, I guess, like, make those changes. I was like becoming more aware of myself, aware of my thoughts. I was becoming aware of the things that I'd gone through when I was younger that were still controlling my life in one way or another. So then I started doing all my inner child work that I've talked about a million times. I've started doing all of my shadow work. So the things about me that I'm like scared of or maybe hiding from in myself. And I started to shine a light on all of those things, because when you're conscious of it and or no longer fearful of the situation, it doesn't control you. So that, you know, and I did I know that there'll be more of that to do throughout life. But I definitely did the majority of it like in a year. So it's not like some massive hard mission that I went on that's like impossible for everyone to do. And now I'm at a place where I realize the importance of self-awareness. So I'm coaching everyone through the podcast as much as I can on becoming more self-aware in all of the different ways, because self-awareness is the path to spirituality. You are your own spirituality, and we are all connected to each other's and others, and, you know, but at the end of the day, if you want to be someone who can understand the energy of yourself, of someone else, you can do like Reiki, you want to be channeling, you want to be connecting into that field, you want to be getting information that you need, that others might need, like you want to help the world in one way or another, using these parts of yourself and using your extended senses and really reaching the full potential of who you are and what you came here to do, you need to start to understand yourself. The first thing is self-awareness. So this is why we're here. All right. So anyway, throughout that process of like, you know, learning myself and everything, I definitely have like ebbed and flowed between flow state and trying to control the outcome. So like I've gotten really good at listening to my body, that I can tell when I'm not in flow state, like even slightly. And if I'm like just a little like nudge out of alignment, I can fucking feel like it feels loud to me now. Whereas in the past, I had no idea if I was in or out of alignment. It was like, how do people know? It's knowing your energy. It's understanding yourself. It's listening to your body. That's all what gets you there. So basically, like, I'm just really lucky to have women around me to help me correct course when needed. So basically, what's an example of this? So when I'm in a really like trusting state, amazing things just happen like every day, and I see synchronicities all the time, and I'm like, well, universe has my back, I'm in flow, la la la, and it's amazing. And I just feel like I'm on a cloud, I'm floating, nothing can get me down. Like, you could literally come up and throw shit at me and I'd be like, well, I guess that was meant to happen for one reason or another. I would not like it, but I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do? It's what's done is done. I love being in that state. It's so nice. But again, I'm human, right? So like, we're always going to ebb and flow and get in our own way sometimes. And I realized that I started to, by accident, and it happened around Christmas time, because Christmas was triggering a lot of like things in me that I really needed to work on, which I did. I spent a lot of time sort of like working on, oh God, so much. It was a really kind of deep time actually. And there's so much about like money and spending and everything that comes up for me around Christmas time. Like even Secret Santa stuff makes me stress, because I'm like, how dare you ask me to spend the money I don't have on someone? I'm like obligated to do it because I'm coming to this thing. Like, fuck you. It's not easy for everyone. You know, so that's like old programming that was just still in me. And so that was sort of like bubbling up, and I was like, whoa, random. So glad I saw it, glad I could work on it, because I'm like, that's not where we are anymore, Esther. It's fine. Everything's okay. But because I was sort of in that state, I was like in that energetic frequency. It pulled up something that I had to work on, which is great. But because I was working on that, I was so close to that energetic frequency that I kind of stumbled into it a little bit by accident. And I started to try and control the different outcomes of situations to push the direction that I'm going in myself, instead of just trusting that the universe would manifest that reality in whatever amazing way that it would do that. So if you can imagine me trying to drive all this like podcast stuff forward and like helping the world in the way that I want to, in a way that where I'm controlling the path, what's happening there is I'm only able to create a version of reality that I have perceived before. That's how human mind works. We work on like a tangible and like, I've seen this work before. I've seen this work for someone else, so I'm going to try it. Like, you know, I've done, you know, other things in this way, so I'm just going to try this with this. And it's like, if you do that, you're only creating the same reality you've lived before, but with a different front on it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't want to do that. If you want to create a life that is just out of your fucking world, so like, the most amazing thing you could possibly think of, you're going to have to let go of how to get there, because you won't know how to get there. You're going to have to just trust and follow the feelings that come through, follow your energy, follow the little nudges from the universe, start to become super aware of all the possibilities around you and grateful for every single one of them that comes through. And then you'll just get surprised. And like, I've done that so many times, to the point where I'm like, I know that through and through. But in that moment, when my frequency was in my sort of like past version of me, I forgot that. I totally forgot. And then I was talking to Sonia, and I was like, just, you know, we were just talking about, you know, the spiritual sort of growth we've gone through over the last year, and kind of having a bit of a reflection. And I'd said, like, you know, do you ever feel like overwhelmed by this and that and blah, blah, blah? And she was like, yeah, I do. But she was like, you know, I think you just need to, and then she just went on this whole spiel about me trusting the universe and letting go and remembering that everything that is going to be exactly what I need will come my way. And she just said all this stuff that I've said to you guys, that I know, that I say to all my friends. And it was like I'd never fucking heard it before. So it was like I was almost like in that frequency when she said it to me. So it was like that past version of myself needed to hear that to stop coming up into my current version of myself and tripping me over. Do you know what I mean? So like while I was in that past lower sort of like past like, you know, a lower vibrational energetic state of like stressing about money and trying to control things and all of that, she just dropped this bomb of like, trust the universe on me. And I was like, just bursting into tears. I was like, ah. And she was like, baby. And I was like, well, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear it so badly. Like, it just rattled through my whole body. And I was like, it's like I've never heard this before. And she was like, we just need a reminder from time to time. And I was like, we fucking do. And then I went and told Hayley, because I know that Hayley was in like, not that same state as me, but in her own version of a similar place. And told her, and she was like, oh my God, of course. She was like, what the fuck? She's like, I know this. How come I wasn't living like that? And I was like, it happens. It fucking happens. And this is why it's also really important to watch your ego as well, because your ego will, like, it's always based on fear. Well, not always, but usually based on fear. And your ego is wanting to keep you safe and keep you exactly where you are so that you can just keep reliving what it knows, because that's like safety. But, you know, if I was in a state of ego, Sonia could have said to me, trust the universe. And I could have been like, I know. Not that I would ever say that to her in that tone or like anything, but my ego might have, you know, could have been like, oh no, I know, babe, thank you, but blah, blah, blah. And then just brushed it off and not even fucking listened. But I wasn't. And I let myself just be heart open. I let the words pour through. It was like she pulled my conscious fucking energy, whatever was going on. She pulled it out of my brain, out of my mind. She pulled the fog out and she pulled whatever that stress was and just threw me back into my heart. And I was like, oh my God, I needed that. Like, thank you. And I felt so grateful. And I told Sonia that I'd passed on what she'd said to Hayley as well, and how that helped Hayley too. Because like, as soon as that happened and I was back in this place of flow and trust with the universe, that's when that whole art commission thing happened. And also Hayley had this thing that she was manifesting, and she was trying to sell her car. And then someone just like bought her car like the next day. Just as soon as we got back into flow state. So it's just really beautiful. And it's important to sort of, learn your energy so you can watch where you're at, whether you're in alignment with yourself and your higher self or not, and pull yourself back in, or rely on the beautiful community that you have around you to tell you what you need to hear in different times of where you're at, because we're all going to ebb and flow. And even if you deeply know something, or even if you see a friend who's going through a bit of a thing right now and you're like, oh, yeah, like they know stuff and they're usually the one that tells me these things, and I don't know, they already know it, so I probably won't. Just remind them. And you can say to them like, hey, babe, I know you already know this, but like, I think maybe you've forgotten or something, but I just think you need a reminder. And then just tell them the thing, because we need to hear shit again and again and again for it to sink in. Anyways, back to it. All right, so this energy signature knowledge that I've just been talking about, this allows us to realize that we're constantly manifesting the good and the bad. So if there is like inauthenticity and internal conflict, we'll be sending out mixed signals in our energy signature out into that unified quantum field / the universe. Okay, so this whole like mixed signals part is probably one of the most like common reasons that we can feel like quote unquote stuck, or if you feel really blocked or whatever. So when we think we're doing everything right. So energy and consciousness are essentially the same thing. So when we're manifesting, remember that the universe is neutral, and you can call into your field whatever is matching your energy. So if you think that you have bad luck and that you're stuck and you're just like, oh, nothing's working out for me, that will become so, or it will remain so. And if you think that you've had a great life and you're really lucky and everything you want finds you, that will be so. So, like, when you're thinking, there's like an in-between with that. And this is the place that I find myself every now and then. When you're thinking mostly positive thoughts, and you're listening to your body and you're doing what you want, and you're able to like, you know, have a good life that you're enjoying, and you trust yourself, but you still feel like you're not getting it every now and then, and you're trying all these different things and you're beating yourself up for not figuring it out, for not stepping into the path that you're supposed to be on or whatever. If you're just like, like I can feel things are just there, but I'm like, why can't I step into it? Like, what is it? And I'm just like, I can't figure it out. I'm a bit blocked or whatever. this is a really common, yet low key enough to keep it sort of like under your own radar way to send out mixed signals to the universe. So, and it's the same with guilt. So like we're programmed as a society to not have too much fun. We see it everywhere, like with religion, like so many different religions tell you like, well, it's mostly like different versions of Catholicism and Christianity, but will tell you different ways to like not have fun. And that fun is a sin. Like, I think it's like Baptists have this whole thing about not dancing. What the fucking cunt? You need to move your body. It's like a somatic release of energy. Anyway, and, you know, there have always been people throughout the world who have been like, we're not going to listen to that. We're not going to abide by that. So then, you know, most of today's modern society is constructed on people who have been like, no, that's a sin, that's bad, don't have fun, don't have joy, live in guilt, blah, blah, blah. And then also, like, when you're on social media, we see so much suffering going on that, like, we feel like, oh, I should just be lucky with, you know, grateful with the life that I have, like, even the stress and all, because I'm not in a place that's being blown up. And while that's mostly true, 100%, we need to add joy to that. So it's like, yes, absolutely be grateful for exactly where you are and everything you have in that moment. Like, that's one of the main things that we need to learn to do way more of. But you need to also learn to add joy. So just because you are lucky to not be in a war-torn country and to have the device that you're listening to this podcast on right now, to have some form of income, to have food on your table, to have some friends in your life, to have, you know, whatever it is that you're fucking lucky to have and that you're grateful for, add joy to that and don't just be like, oh, well, I'm lucky to have these things and, you know, that be it. Like, if we don't add and find joy, we're not going to teach ourselves to get our bodies into that place that I was talking about where you're sending out a magnetic signal, right? So like most of the society that we live in is more programmed, especially women, to live in a state of guilt, shame, and just putting everyone else before ourselves because we're like, oh, may as well just be a martyr instead. There's some kind of dignity in that or whatever. But like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to find our own joy. And yes, there is a lot of fucked shit happening in the world around us. Abso-fucking-lutely. But do you know what? We're not going to fix any of that if we're all still in this low vibrational place, unable to create a new reality. So I look around sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could just like fix all the problems. Like the first thing I would do is get all of the current fucking men in power out of power. Like when I look at all the problems in the world, I'm like, this is literally just a dick swinging competition. They all just want to be the first to space, the most powerful fucking weapons who could ruin the world, the first to AI technology, they're just below, they want to have the most land, the first to conquer the most fucking countries. Like the men who have been ruling the world for the last couple of thousands of years in the patriarchy have literally been throwing us all under buses just to get their own agenda, like on top of everyone else's. And that's fucked. So I would change that, but I can't just change that myself right now, right? So like what I'm doing instead is learning how to change reality itself and then telling as many people as I can. Because if each individual is learning themselves, they're learning self-awareness, they're learning compassion, all of that, their hearts turning, you know, go into the right direction. And they also have the underground, like foundational knowledge on how to create a new reality. Like, what do you think we're going to do with that? We're not going to maintain this way of living with, you know, famine and war and all of that. That's not going to be on anyone's agenda. And yeah, anyway, I got off track. I'm so passionate about that. Oh, golly. Where was I? Yeah, that's right. So mixed signals and that kind of like blocking joy. So if you're sending out a mixed signal to the universe, it's not a clear enough signal for that whole like, you know, feedback loop of you sending out the signal and you becoming magnetic enough for it to come in. If you're sending out, I want, you know, an art studio, but I also don't really fully believe that I deserve an art studio because there's, you know, people out there who deserve more than me for whatever reason it is in your head that you believe. That's a mixed signal. You're not going to feel into that joy fully of it. Or if you do in that moment, but then in your everyday waking life, you're like, oh, well, I mean, I probably wouldn't even know what to do with it when I had it. So why would I have a studio? How would I keep the rent up? Blah, 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 blah. Like you go back into this place of self-doubt. That is a mixed as fuck signal. Or if you're like, I want to become like a spiritual healer and I want to go around and like speak at conferences and stuff and just be able to heal a room full of people at once. But then you also doubt your own inner power. That's a mixed signal. Or if you don't know yourself well enough to know that power inside yourself through and through, that's just a lack of knowledge. But that lack of knowledge creates fear and doubt, and then you doubt yourself. So it's a mixed signal. So you're not really going to get exactly that. You might get some variation of it or not at all. So this is where it's like really important to understand that like how you see yourself and your beliefs of the world around you and your, I guess, attention on your sort of programming based on the world around you are really important. So you need to understand what it is that you really believe about yourself so you can rewire that if required. Like if you're like, oh, like I don't really deserve things. Like if you picture yourself, okay, here's a good one. This is what I realized. I did this myself. I was like, I want to win the lottery. And then you go, okay, you want to win the lottery? Like what would you do if you won XYZ $1 million? And then you think of all the things that you would do and you're like, wow, that's so fun. Really, like, think about how you would feel in that moment if you won. Like, if you realized that was you. Would you be a little bit scared? Because I actually, like, I got so deep into that feeling and I realized I had fear that I, like, wouldn't even know what to do if I won. Like, I had random fear of, like, passing out and like hitting my head. I had a random fear of not knowing what to do with that money. I had a random fear of like everyone in my life treating me differently. I had like just all these random little fears popped up and I was like, well, that is a very mixed signal. And I wasn't trying to sit around like trying to manifest. I don't sit around trying to manifest the lottery like every day. I'd rather manifest like the life that I want, even though yes, having all of that money, I could just start doing all the things. But I mean, you don't really learn a lot that way, do you? You become a master of things by going through. So I think my way to the top is going through. Unless the universe wants to like drop some miracles on me here and there, that'd be amazing. But I learned in that moment that like I had these underlying fears of the thing that I actually really wanted. So it's important to learn to listen to yourself and also to go deep enough inside your own thoughts and your own feelings about things when you're sort of meditating and everything to recognize this shit, because that's like your core underlying belief system about what you deserve and what you can handle. So like that's crazy, right? That I didn't think I could deserve or handle winning millions of dollars. Anyway, I worked on rewiring that shit. Oh my God. So mixed signals, not great. Become aware of them where you can. So just remember that. So you're like, okay, I want to manifest my dream life. Am I having a mixed signal right now? Am I like, do I deserve this thing or not? If you don't think you deserve it, sit with yourself and be like, Cunt, yes, you do. Write it down, journal and be like, I deserve X, Y, Z. And I'm not going to beat myself up for getting there whatever way I get there. So when we combine joy and fun and creativity and rest and we bring all that into our lives, we start to easily find gratitude. And we are reprogramming our bodies and our nervous systems into their natural state. Because when we're in a state of fight or flight, which is honestly most of the population these days, it's really hard to step into a place of gratitude because you're in a place of like trying not to die. And usually you're not very grateful if you're like trying not to die because you just like can't really think about that right now. So sort of rewiring your nervous system is really important as well, because you have to use your mind and your body and your intentions and self-reflection and all of that to realize that you are actually not dying right now. And you're actually in a place of like, you have a roof over your head and you have people who love you and it's not the end of the world and you are going to be okay. You need to remind yourself of that. Isn't that wild that we live in a world that's so high stress and so against the nature of our grain that we just live in fight or flight. Like, that's not cool. So anyway, programming yourself out of that has a lot to do with this as well. Creativity and rest help with getting yourself out of fight or flight and regulating your nervous system. Creativity and rest. And if you feel guilt about resting, which is super fucking common, that's also a very conflicting signal that you're sending out to the universe, right? So if you're like, I want to manifest like myself, just like going to Bali on a holiday and I'm a millionaire and I'm having my cocktails and blah, 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 blah. But you feel guilty when you spend a weekend day doing fucking nothing. Mixed signal, bitch. Pay attention to yourself. They're everywhere. Anyway, I say that with love. All right, so then we have like less internal conflict when we're manifesting and rewiring our energy signatures if we learn to feel and express joy. So creativity comes into this as well because it's teaching you how to let go of the final outcome and trust the process along the way, even if it's difficult. So we are like rewarded because it's also a joyful thing to do. And then when you allow yourself to create art based on what's actually within you and like within who you are, you're rewiring your energy signature into a state of authenticity. And when you're in a state of authenticity, you have little to no internal conflict. So your negative self-talk or guilt kind of just starts to fizzle away. And when you're rewiring your energy, you can do it from a place of clear, authentic intention and joy. And this is how to change your own life. Now, this is great background knowledge to have and like always remember it if you can. But the main thing to do that helps all of this is clearing out your unconscious programming and your shadow self through learning self-awareness. Because like I said just then, like I pointed out a few different ways on how you can be sending out mixed signals, and all of that comes down to self-awareness. So remember, our brains, our intelligence, our bodies and nervous systems are all made up of cells, which are molecules, which are atoms, which are subatomic particles, which are mainly energy. So we're made up of the same stuff as the universe. Remember that. And if you want to read about that, read Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. His books are phenomenal. He is phenomenal. Reading his books is the way that I am able to logically understand the stuff that I instinctively know and feel and do. It helps me gather it all together as like proper thoughts so that I can actually more consciously implement the things that my instincts were doing anyway. It also helps me then share it with you better and more clearly as well. His books are not super easy to read in the sense that like I zone out a lot and I take a long time to read them. And as I read books pretty quickly, like I'll read a book in a week or maybe a fortnight, and I'll read a Joe Dispenza book for like a month because it's just fucking like, it's like when you're reading a menu and you don't know what you want and then you zone out, you go a bit cross-eyed, you're no longer reading the words. Like I keep doing that. But then because it's still so interesting. I don't get it why it's so difficult. I think it's just so hard to comprehend. And so I'm at a place in life now where I've been actively going through all of these things so much that the comprehension of what he says is making so much more fucking sense to me now. Even though I understood it before, I understand it now even more because I have the practical understanding of it. So it helps me share it with you. Anyway, so knowing that basically you are the same as the universe, you're an extension of it. Do you see what I mean about about how we're all creators, and like how in the previous episode I was talking about the connection between like nature and creativity and the universe and manifestation and stuff like that. So it's our very existence, like the power of the universe in nature is a visible, oh my God, fucking hell, visible manifestation. Fuck's sake. So if you think about nature and the world around us and all the humans in it and all the beautiful magical things that you see, like what's it called? Like the Aurora Borealis or whatever. And, you know, just like shooting stars, and you look up at the starry sky in the night and you're like, wow, how did all of this happen? Like how are these magical wonders of the world happening? And they're so beautiful and they're so incredible. That's like a visual manifestation of the power of the universe. And we have that. We are a part of that. So we are able to use it in the same way nature uses it. Look at the incredible force that nature is. Look what wind and water can do. We are made of water. We're made of energy. We're made of the same shit. So start to really recognize how incredibly powerful and so creative that you are. Like the energy of the universe has also been shifting lately. So anyone who's in like an intentional and conscious ascension path at the moment. So I honestly think everyone is in an ascension path from like the moment they're born, obviously, right? But like we become conscious of it at one point or another. Ideally, I guess like some people don't. I would say that my poppy is probably not conscious of his ascension path, but I know a lot of you guys who are listening are. So this will probably, you'll probably be like, oh yeah, I know. But there's been a big shift of energy lately over the last maybe 3 to 6 months, probably since 2020 really, but like massively, lately. And it's extra powerful, and we've had to sort of be rewired on a cellular level to deal with the new energy. So the world has been feeling it in all kinds of different ways. We've been feeling in all kinds of different emotions. We've been a bit more tired, a bit more lethargic, like, you know, more universal wisdom's probably coming through. You can feel yourself having to integrate new upgrades like again and again and again. And this power that I suppose we've been like, you know, getting used to is really, really deeply tied into our internal kind of creation system. So I want you to be really careful about what you're saying and what you're thinking when it comes to negative self-talk and, you know, talk about your life and all of that sort of stuff. Because we are now in a place, like from now onwards, where your verbal manifestation powers are stronger than you've ever experienced before. So it's like, wield that power wisely. And this is also why I have been pushed so hard to teach everyone self-awareness. Because when you're self-aware, you are able to notice these thoughts and these conflicting signals that you're sending out to the universe and your own like self-talk. So if you're like, oh my God, I'm always like, you know, going through one sort of like mental health issue after another, and I'm always just got shit luck, and like no one ever wants to like do X, Y, Z, and everything's fucked, and I don't know how to control myself, and I'm blah, 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 blah. Like, watch yourself in those moments and think, do I want to keep living in this reality, or am I going to shut my mouth and look at something around me that I'm grateful for and just take that as the first step? And I'm not saying that you need to just, like, when you're upset about something, shut your mouth and be grateful. That's not at all what I'm saying. Oh my God. You still need to feel the things you're feeling, but recognize if you feel this same thing again and again. Are you stuck in a loop? Are you in a negative cycle? Are you in a pattern? Have you said these words to people before? Are you sharing shit on social media, like nihilistic fucking shit? Like, yeah, it was really funny back in the day to be like nihilistic and like, oh, we're fucking, you know, ironic and sarcastic and all of that. And then like, yes, we find that funny. It's relatable. But be careful about doing it all the time. Just be careful about the reality that you're creating for yourself, because your power to create is massive right now, and it will be from here on out. You just need to learn to access it and to properly wield it. So that's pretty much what I came here to tell you all of this for, so that you can be aware of what is going on and how you can use it to better your life and the world around you. Also, did I want to say something else? No, I don't think so. I think that was it. Can you share this with people, please? So I just really feel like a lot of people need to hear this episode. This has been something that's been sort of like coming through for me hot and fast, and I feel like more people need to understand their power. And I hope that I got it across in a succinct enough way. I have ADHD and I'm not on my meds right now, and I haven't been for like pretty much this entire time I've had the podcast. So I kind of jump stories every now and then, and I go back and forth and lose my train. So if this has been concise, amazing. I've been asking my higher self for that. But if it's been confusing, let me know. I can reiterate it. I'm going to talk about it again in other episodes, but it's so fucking important to understand your relation to the world around you and your power within it. And like, you know, yes, you still got guides and angels and all of this stuff. Like all of this stuff, there's so much that has been created by like conscious intention by the universe that you can tap into in this unified field, right? But at the end of the day, like, you are a creator of that field. You're one of the people that can go into that field and create. So just remember that. Every time you open your mouth, every time you think a thought, remember that. I love you, and I hope this was helpful. Let me know. Okay, bye.